Did you know that there's breaking news this week about famines? That's right, famine. It's a Greek word, limos. You know, in one of my books, I created a limos bag, and here's what I said about it. I just recently made a gardener's survival bag. I call it the limos famine bag. In case of food shortages, you can pull out your ready-filled limos bag and just add seed and water. You know, that was the end of the quote, but, I'm getting the thing. Maybe that wasn't such a bad idea after all, to have a limos survival bag ready to plant your seeds. Did you know that becoming a gardener in the beginning of these last days was predicted? Yes, it's in Luke chapter 17, verse 28. Likewise also as it was in the days of Lot. They did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded, they planted. Did you get that? They became gardeners and farmers. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. And that is the topic of today's discussion. Why people are planning? It's because of famines. And famines are one of the beginning signs of the end. The beginning sign when Jesus is going to come back in a cloud. Are you ready for the rapture? This is Larry Zorro. Stay tuned. We're going to talk more about famines. If you look at the concordance, you'll find three major places that deals with this sign, this beginning sign of the end. Matthew 24, it says, and there shall be famines. Mark 13, verse 8 says, there shall be famines and troubles. Luke 21, verse 11 says, and great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines. And here is what I surmised by a story I read. There are food riots in some parts of Africa, which is not really a great surprise. But what is surprising is found in Latin America. There's a resurgence of poverty, and it's bringing a vicious wave of hunger in a region that was supposed to have been mostly eradicated decades ago. We are told that food shortages are becoming acute from Mexico City all the way down to the southern tip of South America. And they went on to say that in Latin America, the unthinkable is now actually happening. There was a quote of a guy saying he couldn't feed his family. He knew it was true, but he couldn't believe it. The pandemic had just hit Guatemala in full force, and Alonzo, a 34-year-old construction worker, was suddenly jobless. He sat up all alone till late last night, his mind racing and fought back tears. He had 6 mouths to feed, no income, and no hope of receiving anything beyond the most meager of crisis support checks, some $130 from the cash-strapped government. Now, if you're just thinking, I'm just a religious dude in love with the idea of the rapture, and I'll just make up anything to try to make it fit into my eschatology or into my teaching. But listen to this. This is the headline of this article I was reading. The head of the UN World Food Program repeatedly warned us that we should soon be facing famines of biblical proportions. And his predictions are now starting to become a reality. Did he catch that? Famines of biblical proportions. Don't tell me I'm overblowing it. You tell that to the head of the UN World Food Program. So what do you think all this means? Well, let me get out my padlock. Can you hear this padlock? This is what I'm talking about. That is the sound of a padlock opening. And there are certain padlocks that must open before the end comes. But did you know that prior to the end comes the rapture of the church? Let me read you this verse. You probably know it. If you've been listening to me, you might know it by heart. It's Luke chapter 21, verse 28. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. What was he talking about? Who's coming? Why should we be lifting up our heads? It's in the verse 27. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. He's coming in a cloud. You got to lift up to see the cloud. Jesus is coming in the cloud. And when these things that he mentioned, these signs, these indicators that he mentions start opening like padlocks, then look up. This is the beginning of the end. You got to be saved. Are you saved today? You better call out to Jesus. It is very urgent you call on him today for salvation. Realize he died on the cross for your sins. He was buried, and in 3 days he rose from the dead. He can give you that victory. That victory of the resurrection can be yours. And that victory over sin can be yours because he's willing to forgive you by his own blood. He shed his own blood for you that you might be cleansed and you might have right standing with God. Trust in him today. Thank him for his salvation, and we'll see you later. Bye.